At some point in time in your life, you've probably heard something along the lines that character is what you do when no one is watching. I know I've heard this a lot. Whether it be in Sunday school when I was a child, even in elementary school, we were always taught that character is what you do when no one is watching. I even remember being a kid and being sort of stuck in this catch-22. They used to give out character awards when I was in elementary school, and you're like, I want to be doing something good, but I got to do it when nobody's looking, and then you're like, well, somebody's got to bust me doing something good. It's like the incentive to do like the anti-scandalous things of good behavior when no one's watching, but then be caught doing it so you can get a character award. Really weird, bizarre sort of system there, but whatever. However, I want us to challenge this idea that character is what you do when no one's watching. I want us to actually flip that around and say, perhaps character is what you do when other people are watching. Or maybe even character is just being of good character whether no one is watching or a lot of people are watching. So let's get into this. I want us to read out of the Gospel of John, chapter 12, and we're going to read 42 and 43. And I'm going to ask Amanda if she would read these two verses for us.
All right, so John chapter 12, starting with the 42nd verse. Nevertheless, many, even of the authorities, believed in him, that being Jesus. But for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so that they would not have to be put out of the synagogue. For they love the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God.
Okay, interesting. Again, this is the context of Jesus' ministry. There are people who believe in him who are religious leaders in the Jewish community. Again, they're worried about being put out of the synagogue, so we know that they're most likely Jews or perhaps Gentile God-fearers or something like that. There are definitely Gentiles who are leaders, centurions, and other authorities in the Jewish world who believe, as well as those in the Gentile world who believe. But right now what we see is they're not willing to confess it. And again, we believe these probably to be Jews, but either way it's irrelevant because they're people of importance who are not willing to confess their conviction about Jesus because it's not popular. We have this mentality that character is what you do when no one's watching, but what about when other people are watching? Do you have the integrity to stand up for what is right, to uphold your convictions in the eyes of a lot of people who may not like that? You know, there's ultimately a mob which takes Jesus to the cross and some people who throw out all rationality to give into their emotional side to take a man to the cross. But the question is for us, do we have the character to do what is right even when it's unpopular in the eyes of the world around us? Are we capable of doing that? What do you guys think?
Well, I think it all depends on what our character is tied to. So where do we get our character? How is our character influenced or molded or shaped? And if our character is shaped by people's perceptions, then we're going to do good things when they're watching, or how they define good things when they're watching, and maybe do what we want when no one else is watching. And so this is kind of where that statement first comes from, is that character is when you do good things when no one is watching. But more than that, if our character is tied to actual virtues, we can do compassionate things all day long, but unless we really have the virtue of compassion, they're not going to do anything for the world. We're not going to stand for anything that's going to impact the world for the better and any kind of long-term effect. And pertaining to this passage, and as we look at a world that often is antagonist to the Christian faith or just to character and wholeness in general, we're going to find a lot of different influences trying to persuade us one way or another. But if our character is truly grounded in who God is and how God calls us to act, then it's not going to matter who the audience is, big, small, our peers, our authorities, those who are responsible for or responsible to. That character is going to drive us through all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is something where it comes to the point of, do you just care about what other people think, or actually are you being connected to these virtues themselves? Are you doing virtuous behaviors? Are you doing things of good character because you yourself are in pursuit and of these admirable traits, or are you just someone who's looking to please the people around you? It's a really important question, and it's something that's worthwhile us spending time thinking about. Anthony, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, all right, yeah. I would say that, it's kind of funny. Once you realize that the stipulations are really contingent on what the people around you, whether or not they are actually moral or immoral, I think character is just what you do, and as long as you're basing that off of the judgment of God and trying to work towards the example that's set for us by Jesus Christ, I think that you should be fine.
Yeah, and I think that's great.
I do think there's something good. You mentioned the character awards. I think that's really funny. I've never heard or heard of something like that. And then, you know, we take this passage also out of one of the Gospels that says, don't let your right hand know what your left hand's doing. And we create these dichotomies, or like the first will be last and the last will be first. So we try to make ourselves last so we can flip things and then we can be first. And here's the thing, God knows our heart.
Yeah.
God knows what we're striving for, why we do what we do. And for us to be a people of holiness, of sanctification, to be created in the image of God, and to be transformed into that image, means that we give up all of those mind games, and we simply do what is good and what is right, because it's good and it's right.
Yep.
Yeah, there's been some times whenever I've put myself in that position as well. It's like, you know, well, the first will be last and the last will be first. So my job should be to be the last. That way I'm first. And it's like, wait a second. Well, I shouldn't want to be last so that then I'm first, because then I'm still wanting to be first, you know, like.
Yeah, it comes in, it bites you, it comes full circle. It's the snake eating itself. But, you know, back to the character awards things, I really hope that wasn't like a one-size-fits-all trophy they gave everyone, because we were all duped if it was. I don't know that we had the circumstantial awareness in, like, elementary school to realize if everybody's getting, like, a participation trophy for awards because they're branded a little bit differently. Like, everybody just gets a character award, though some may get, like, trustworthiness, others get, like, I don't know, honesty, even though those are kind of similar, though, a little different in language, but I really hope not. Anyways, we'll wrap up our conversation on that now. Thank you for watching. Again, you can find us on Facebook at Kingdom of the Logos. You can find us on YouTube, also at Kingdom of the Logos. And you can find us on Twitter, on SoundCloud, CastBox, iTunes. We have a free podcast for you to download. You can find me on Twitter at JDylanProctor, and a few other sites as well if you just do a general search for Kingdom of the Logos. And again, we thank you so much for spending time with us. If you would like to support us, please just view our content, share it. And on that, have a blessed day.